There's two certainties in life: death and taxes. Join us as we go through our budget review and work out what impact that's going to have on your finances and on financial independence. So what is our reaction to the budget, and has it changed our thinking of what we're going to do with our money?
Yes, financial independence is such a critical thing that we all talk about, and it's what enables us to do these videos, create this stuff for you. We're currently here in Bali, chilling out. We're going to the Financial Freedom Retreat that Amy Minkley has created, and we've been doing our monthly financial review, looking at the budget, reading all the reviews, and it's quite interesting stuff for FI. So let's get straight into this. I think one of the biggest things that hit us was the changes to capital gains tax, and specifically capital gains tax in the UK at the lower rate for stocks and shares has gone from 10% to 18%. That's an 8% increase. That's huge, and I'm angry, I'm annoyed, I'm peeved. The higher rate has gone from 20% to 24%. But what does that actually mean? Should I be angry? Should I be annoyed? Katie, tell me, what does it actually mean?
Well, you're entitled to your opinion and your emotions and your reactions. So
thank you.
You can have whatever reaction you wish. My instinct was to go to the numbers and see what that impact would have on our portfolio. So we have some of our money in taxable accounts because when we were earning, we were doing very well and we maxed out our ISA and SIP allowance. So we have money in our taxable accounts. I was curious, if we were to sell all of those off, what the impact of this change in capital gains tax would have on our tax bill. So if we sold everything, we would make a gain of £200,000.
Which is phenomenal. That means those index funds that we bought have gone up in value by £200,000. That's £200,000 of money that we didn't work for. We kind of did, because we worked for it and invested it, but that's the increase.
If we were to sell all of that before this budget change on the 29th of October, we would be given a bill of just under £30,000, so £29,545. Like, that's between the two of us. After the budget change, just over £41,000. So just a day later, if we'd sold all our stuff, that's what would happen. So overnight, just over £11,500 worse off in terms of a tax bill, with no chance to do anything about it. There was no warning. That was just, as of this speech, as of this day, effective immediately, the percentage that you pay on those gains has gone up.
Which I think is actually why I'm quite angry about it, because they've given us no chance to be able to do it, and you make the best plans you can based on the tax rates you can to plan over the years, and then there's no real warning. And we're going to come onto this more in some of the other changes in the budget, and people did do things before the budget that may actually have been detrimental to them, and so we're going to talk about that. But on this particular one, the message for you: it is more important than ever to use your tax-free allowances. So if you're in the UK, use your ISA allowances, use your SIP allowances, wherever you are in the world. If you're American, use your 401ks and your Roths, your superannuations in Australia. In New Zealand, hello New Zealand, make sure you use your PI accounts and super accounts and all that stuff. It's more important than ever to use your tax-free allowances. Kiwi Saver, thank you. But for the budget in the UK, just use your tax-free allowances, and we'll be coming on to this more in a bit. But BED and ISA, or BED and SIP, has become more important than ever. Okay, so that's capital gains tax. It's gone up. It has stung. Number two.
Income tax, the bands that it changes from the lower rate to the higher rate has been frozen until 2028. So you won't think, well, that's a good thing, right? Like, they're not changing that. But
No.
As we all know, we've had quite a bit of high inflation recently, so wages have started to go up to reflect that, depending on the industry you work in. But it means that more and more of us are going to be pushed into that higher rate band, because wages are going up, but the number at which you then start paying the higher rate tax has not changed. So as wages go up, more people are going to be hit by that 40% tax rate.
So basically this is a tax increase by stealth. They really are screwing earners. They really are. A lot of you will be pushed into the 40% tax bracket. and it's been frozen for a long time now. So this is not good news. This is bad news, and it will make you far worse off in real terms, which means taking inflation to account. Okay, so that's income tax frozen. What can you do about it? Not a lot.
Not a lot.
You can put more money into your SIP,
Yeah.
which will increase your lower rate. There's not a lot you can do about it. It just is.
And what it absolutely doesn't mean is that you should suppress your earnings.
No.
You are always better off by earning more. You're just going to give a bit more of that increase that you earn to the taxman. But you're always better off. You're never worse off by earning more money.
So next up, number 3, inheritance tax. Inheritance tax was a big one. It has been frozen until 2030. So another 6 years it's frozen. It's already been frozen for a long time, which means you will be paying 40% death tax on a large percentage of your estate. But the really big one for our community, which I know always comes up, is inheritance tax on pension pots, Katie.
So before, depending on what age you were when you died, it would either be passed on tax-free to your heirs, or it would be passed on at their tax rate.
Yes.
But now, pension pots, regardless of what age you are when you die, will be included in your estate, meaning that they are subject to inheritance tax at 40%.
40%. So if you are planning on leaving your pension to your kids, that has all changed now based on what the Labour government has just done. So if you are concerned about what you're leaving on for the next generation, you need to come up with a new strategy, a new way of thinking, take advantage of giving them money whilst you're still in life, work out how to do it. There's going to be lots coming out over the next months, I'm sure, about how to get around this, but it is something you're going to have to think about. And if you're actually at a later stage in your life, there's going to be less you can do because you've probably already pumped it into your SIP, your pension. Like, this is annoying, and this is part of my problem with the UK government, is they don't actually give you security to be able to plan over the long term. They want us to be able to take care of ourselves in our retirement, and then they keep changing the rules and screwing us over, which then makes us go, well, why invest? But you have to just play the game at hand and keep going. So there you go, that's inheritance tax. Let's move on to number 4, which is stamp duty. What is stamp duty?
Stamp duty is the tax that you pay when you buy a home, and the tax that you pay depends on whether it's a home that you live in, or your only home, I should say, or whether it's a second home, an additional home that you are having as an investment, as a holiday home, whatever it is. So that tax that you have to pay on those additional homes, on those investment homes, has gone from, instead of paying an additional 3% stamp duty, you're paying an additional 5%. So when the band for people when it's buying the home that they're going to live in is 0% on that first 250 grand, on a investment home, that's 5% that you're paying on that band. That is a whopping increase, and it's making it less and less appealing for landlords, private investors to want to buy homes to rent out to on the private market.
Exactly, and that increase, you might be thinking, well, 2% is not a lot, but as you probably remembered from Rebel Finance School, 1% can make all the difference over the long run. So let's actually have a look at that. The average house prices in the UK, the average house price across the whole of the UK is 292,000, so 293,000. So let's look at this. Your stamp duty, if you owned the home when you're buying it, would be 2,000, like owned it as in like you lived it.
Live in it, own it, occupied, or it's your first home, it's your only home, you paying £2,146 stamp duty on that purchase. It's just a one-off purchase when you buy the home.
Exactly. If you were buying it as an investment, before the changes, you would pay £11,000 stamp duty, and after this tax change, you will be paying nearly £17,000. So you're like £6,000 worse off on this, which does make property as an investment a far worse investment. It's an extra tax on that, and the UK government for a long time has been trying to dissuade people from investing in property, which, you know, we can discuss the pros and cons. I don't think it's a good idea, because you do want a private market of landlords who rent out property, because people want to rent properties. So it's fascinating.
It's become more important than ever to do the numbers when you are thinking about investing in property. It doesn't mean that it automatically makes buying property a bad investment. It makes it slightly worse investment individually, but always do those numbers. It might be that the numbers are still great and you're going to get a good return. Just go into it with your eyes open and knowing the full impact of that on something that you're thinking of doing.
Now, it's equally as important to talk about what didn't happen in the budget as to what did. Now, first off, what didn't happen? There was a lot of talk that the tax-free amount that you could take from your pension would be reduced down. There were fears that it would be reduced to 100 grand from 264 or whatever it was. That did not happen.
Yippee!
Now, a lot of people took preemptive action and crystallised their tax-free lump sum from their pensions before the budget came along. Fears of it would happen. Now, to me, this is not a good thing because capital gains tax has just gone up outside. So if you had crystallised all that money, you've probably got to reinvest it somewhere, unless you're blowing it on house renovations and stuff, which is what a lot of people do. They just blow it on house renovations and have nothing to live off. But you're going to have to invest it outside, which then you can't get it all into ISAs. So it's going to be in taxable accounts and you're worse off. So these people have done stuff on speculation. We did want to tell you, if you're one of those people who has crystallized a large sum of money in the last 30 days, you actually have 30 days to get back out of it, to reverse it. So you could reverse it within that period. But we're going to be doing more on this in the future. But it is not great to crystallize that whole tax-free lump sum and then have it sat outside doing nothing for you. You want it invested so it can look after you in the long run, and you can take advantage of those increases in the stock market, just as we did our monthly finance meeting this morning, and our investments have gone up like 64 grand this month, which is huge. So there's a little bit about that. The second thing that didn't happen was there was no flat rate pensions tax relief. You will still get tax relief at your marginal rate, i.e. if you're a lower rate payer, you'll get 20% tax rate relief. On the stuff in the higher rate, you'll get 40%, and the stuff on the extra high rate, you'll get 45%. So that is a good thing. You can still invest away in your SIP at those.
The third rumour that didn't come to fruition in this budget was that there were going to be big shake-ups to the ISA arrangement. There was going to be a specific UK ISA. We can invest in UK investments. That did not happen. To me, that's a good thing. I really like the ISA scheme that we have here. I was not a fan of the idea of there being UK-specific investments because of the whole home country bias, meaning over-investing in the UK, and it looked like it was going to be in weird and wonderful things. So I'm happy that that didn't happen. Government, I would be happy for you to increase the ISA allowance. So, I'm leaving that open to possibility. And just use your ISA allowance. There's very generous allowances that we have in the UK for your ISA and for your pension. Use those up first for the reasons we talked about with the capital gains tax increase. So make sure if you do have money in a taxable account, get that over to an ISA as soon as you can.
Yeah, which that particular part has made bed and ISA far more important than ever. And just building on what Katie said there, the budget was very heavy on tax for business. And looking at how the UK economy is going to grow over the years, it's basically said it's not particularly going to grow over the years. Inflation is going to be higher than growth. So the UK economy is going to be flat for some time. This is not a great budget for business. And if you are overly home country biased in your investments, you need to change that. You need to be invested in the global market, or you will get slammed. Like, the UK has been a dreadful place to have your money for a long time, and I can't see that getting any better under the current government and the current taxes. If anything, it's going to get worse. So please be very, very aware of home country bias. Check where your portfolio is, and do not have it specifically in the UK. That means life strategy funds at Vanguard are terrible. That means, what's the other fund doing?
Target retirement date funds as well.
terrible, avoid those. Please check your portfolios and know which countries you're invested in. Okay.
So the question then comes, like, in hindsight, knowing what we know now, and there was so much rumour and speculation about this budget, would we have done anything differently? Is anything being announced and we thought, oh my goodness, we should have done all these different things, moving our money around? Did that happen, Alan? Is there anything you think, oh my goodness, I should have done something differently?
Well, considering how much our capital gains tax bill has gone up, I'm peeved. But the answer is no. We wouldn't have done anything differently. Maybe we would have sold off a bit to pay for our expenses coming up, maybe 10 grand. But no, like, never do anything on speculation. The people who crystallised their gains in their SIPs, like, you won't have done well based on this. You have to play the game at hand. You can't speculate. Play the game at hand. I would not change anything. We just need to keep marching forwards and looking after our investments. That's it.
So what are the takeaways from this, Alan? What should people do with these changes that have come or are coming into force in April?
Okay, let's look at this. A, you need to be very careful when thinking about how you're going to leave money for your kids. It doesn't necessarily affect Katie and I because we don't have kids, but if you have kids you want to leave money to, you're going to have to do some strategizing and work out what to do with that.
B, use your tax-free allowances, that's ISAs and SIPs in the UK, and get your money over into your ISA if you do have money in a taxable account.
Exactly. C, we've actually got some questions that we're going to figure out. My questions for us to figure out is, should we put more money into Katie's pension now the lifetime allowance has gone? We actually stopped paying into Katie's pension many years ago due to the fact that the lifetime allowance, you would have reached it. So we need to readdress that. And should we put more money into my SIP, given that I'm slightly older than Katie and we can get to it earlier? We need to do a forecasting spreadsheet to have a look at that. If you don't know how to do that, we did an entire workshop called Forecasting Your Financial Future, which you can find in the links below. Watch that video and that'll help you to do that. So those are the questions that I'm going to figure out based on this budget.
And what questions have come to mind for you based on your situation? What are the different options you're thinking? Just clearly set out those options and think through the consequences of each of those.
D was actually stamp duty. I think for us, it made me think, God, I'm glad we got out of property when we did. Because even if you've currently got property, this 2% increase in stamp duty is going to make buyers less interested to get into the market. So it's going to make it harder to sell your properties. So maybe think about selling them before that stamp duty increase comes in. Think about what you're doing. Just do the maths. A lot of people say that Donegan's anti-property, and we're not. We are pro-maths. Do the maths, work out the figures, and only invest in things that are actually going to produce you a return over time. And property does not always go up.
And finally, there's always a bunch of rumour and speculation when budgets come into force or when budgets are coming up, and change is inevitable with the tax system, with the government, without how things work. You can only play the game that is presented to you. You can only play within the rules that are now, and you just have to go with that. Expect change and know that you're going to potentially flex, or things you might be a little bit worse off, but you can only play that game that's been presented to you and just focus on what you can control. You can control how much you're investing every month. You can control what you're focusing on positive things that are happening in your life, not the doom and gloom in the media. Focusing on how you can enjoy your life now and not defer all enjoyment until retirement. Those are the things to focus on, and not what's happening in the media and all the stuff that can really drag you down.
The two things that are unavoidable, death and taxes. And both of those were changed significantly in this budget. We would love to know what you're going to do about it. Please put your thoughts, comments below. Please hit like and share the video as well to help people understand what actually is happening in this budget. We want to know, what are you going to do based on this information?